Hello, hello to another short story. Today it's a story that hit me like a brick when I first read it. A story that might hit you like a brick too, so viewer discretion is advised. It is a dark story that touches on topics that are pretty uncomfortable, topics we don't like to talk about, which, by the way, is one of the brilliant elements of the story, because the not talking about it is an essential part of the story. And it is a story that raises questions that could not be more relevant today. What are we willing to accept from those who give us, let's say, certain advantages, or who promise us things we would love to have? It is yet another original story, by the way, a full-fledged weird tale by none other than Stephen Sinclair, Mr. Stephen Sinclair. And if you like Stephen's stories, you can find links to a whole bunch of narrations on my channel and on some other YouTube channels, and without giving any spoilers, very soon there might be a possibility to get a hold on even more of Stephen's stories. Stay tuned. Here is an express horror story by Mr. Stephen Sinclair. Here is Revert. Nura had woken up groggily to fading summer darkness in a field. There had been a man in a long, hooded black robe walking slowly towards her. He held a huge, serrated flint knife. She couldn't see his face because of the hood, but she had recognized his strange, lilting, musical voice. "Nura, dear, the black goat of the woods is here, and Lord Shuddermore has come." And he had softly chuckled as he advanced. Nura had staggered to her feet, somehow been able to run down across the field towards some woods. Despite, or perhaps because of her terror and confusion, for what seemed to her only moments before she had been in this man's house with her entire family. They had just finished a nice meal. Her last memory had been of one of her brothers and her father collapsing boneless to the floor. Then darkness had taken her. No, she was running. She felt completely naked because her head was bare, her long black hair streaming behind her. Normally it was always covered up when she was outside. The man had come into her community 2 years before. Her gran had never taken to him, although he was what was called a revert. He had always remained for her gran one of those people, and her gran had used the names and said the things that were always used and said about those people in Nura's community. Said behind closed doors. Her gran was her dad's mum, and her opinion had some value, but she was of course outweighed by Nura's dad, brothers, and uncles. The man had certain advantages. Nura was a good girl. She knew her place, but she was aware the man had helped her dad and uncles out financially, and he was big and, as one of her brothers said, well able to handle himself. A disloyal part of Nura suspected these were two of the things her male relatives always cared about most. She internally furiously denied this voice. Also, the man had somehow helped with some of her various uncles' other troubles. Nura's gran said the troubles were all the fault of those people and their disgusting ways. She said all her boys were good, and that it's like what happens when you leave meat around when there are cats about. Nura had vociferously agreed, and told her gran things that went on at the high school and the park and stuff. On more than one occasion her gran had embraced her and given her the ultimate compliment of saying to Nura's dad, "You don't have to worry about this one. She's our good girl." The man had really appeared to be what he seemed, and there were other things. He didn't have the normal estuary English accent most of those people had wherever you went in the UK. He had the lilting voice of the islands and mountains of the far northwest. When the big man even said no, it came out gently, persuasively, with extra emphasis on the "oh" part. Her mum had once asked him where he was originally from, and he had laughed quietly and mentioned the Hebrides. "One of those wee places there, two of them nearby, have names that are like eggs and dirt. Mine had a daft name also. One of the seasons of the year." And her mum had told her he had then given her a little honest-to-goodness respectful little bow of the head, completely natural-like, she had told her. And the man had something those people never had, what the ignorant called fanaticism, but what those in the community sometimes described as true, sincere ardour. The posh examples of those people who were not really people anyway might talk about things like freedom and democracy, all they wanted, but you knew it had no substance, or rather, weight. One of her uncles was political. He often talked about useful idiots and watermelons, green on the outside, red on the inside. But they all felt the big red-headed man's sincerity. They were all won over. The man really believed. Now, Nura was fleeing in the woods. The rank undergrowth and trees seemed to want to grab her and hold her so he could come and get her. With something beyond thought, she knew the trees were looking at her, that they were his allies. Even in her terror, she was appalled at herself, knew she was having idolatrous thoughts. The shadows seemed to crawl. She could hear furtive movement. Only not so furtive. They wanted her to hear. For she had seen other cowled figures. They were all around, and she heard him calling out softly to her in that lilting voice. "Nura, dear, listen." Whimpering, she tried to hide in the undergrowth. She clasped her hands desperately over her ears, but still she heard more than enough. "Before the false mother and her unholy son, before the cloth was laid and the cross was hung. Other mothers, other sons. Desperately she tried to crawl away. She fought down the urge to scream. She got up and tried once again to run. A branch caught in her hair. She stumbled and fell, screaming in terror. Mothers with 1,000 sons, they danced under the trees where the offspring's dripping hung. His laughter rang out, followed by that of other voices. Don't be confused, Nura dear. I am sincere Revert. Just a bit more of one than you thought. A bit further back. And your dear Gran was wrong. I'm even less of a secret atheist than she was. After all, you people are only one step off from being that. We are many, many more. Hooded figures pounced on her. They had her. She was still screaming as they bound her hands behind her back. She was helpless. They blindfolded her, gagged her. Softly, she heard him say, whispering near her ear. She could feel his breath on her. I do know that you are a good girl. Desperately she tried to cringe away, struggle free. Softly he said, Don't worry, you're going to get to stay a good girl for always and always. They dragged her, made her stumble forward. She heard voices singing. From the rivers to the seas, the joyous, hungry old ones shall always be. He who had the sun and stars stolen from us, replaced by guttering candles in little rooms, and lust-filled blood for books of shame will never turn our faces and our ardor away from them. They tore her blindfold away. She saw what they had built in a clearing. Her family were all also there. A huge figure. Also, nearby, an oak tree. Dripping hung. She was still gagged. They began to drag her forwards. She heard him say, if I may misquote a great man, it is time for her to keep her appointment with the Wicker Man.